So welcome to this playthrough, and this is a playthrough of a game that Dave and I made. It's on a journey into my subconscious, and on that journey we learn about Symbiosis Null, who is a creature that we will describe in a little bit. So Dave, do you want to describe who you are?
Yeah, sure. I'm David. I've been making video games professionally and personally for a couple decades. And I like, I like fun games and action games, but I also am intrigued by the idea of games as art and games as a teaching tool. And that's partly what drew me to game development. And also, as an aside, Vivek and I have been friends for a number of decades,
Hmm.
and I'm intrigued by these creations and characters and manifestations that he has, such as Symbiosis Null, who he's mentioned. So I was excited to work on this project with him.
Yeah, and Symbiosis Null's genesis and birth was actually in high school, and that's actually since when Dave and I have known each other. So this description that's happening here is just talking about the idea that Symbiosis Null was this uh, alternate persona that I had on Instant Messenger, and then this alternate persona entered into my subconscious, like anything does, like trauma or positive or negative things. So it goes through my eyes, and then what you see in this artwork is like a virus. This is the herpes virus. It slides down from my conscious mind into my subconscious. And that's sort of what the first scene is that Dave designed. Um, Dave, any thoughts on like how you designed this upcoming scene?
Oh, the thing we're about to see, the tunnel, you mean?
The tunnel, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Um,
sorry to interrupt. But what I should also say is everything in this game is original. Like, there's not one thing that we borrowed from anywhere else. So all the music, the sound effects, everything is stuff that we've generated.
that's true. Not the font,
Not
but
the font.
everything
Okay.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
that is true, and I appreciate about that. It definitely has a very authentic, original, and DIY feeling to it, which I think is cool.
oh,
Um, and
And I should
yeah,
say, this central
oh,
piece here is the herpes virus. That's what we modeled it
oh.
after. And
Très bien.
this très bien that you're hearing here is from Dave's voice, because in French class he had a legendary deep voice, and so we wanted to sample that for sure.
Oh yeah,
So,
the that sample at the end of each level when you beat each level.
sure. And so Dave, so you programmed this in Unity, is that correct?
Yeah, we built
Yeah,
this in Unity.
Unity. Yeah. And is that something that a lot of like video game people make their stuff on?
Yeah, it's one of the big ones out there. Yeah, yeah. A lot of indies use it. A lot of non-indies, like big studios, use it as well. Um, the studio I work at uses it, uh, and I like Unity. It's free to use, in my opinion. If you're at least mildly technically adept, it's not too hard to jump into. So it makes game development accessible to a lot of people. Uh, for whom it might not have been accessible otherwise in past years.
Hmm. Definitely. Um, and that just that last scene that we saw, it was basically a fetal baby that represents like this idea that's descending from my conscious mind into my subconscious. And for that, Dave, you had to design like this balancing dynamics where a person had to fight against
Yeah,
wind. So that was that pretty tough to do?
yeah. So there are three kind of sections in this game, right? There's the tunnel with the virus in it that we saw at the beginning. There's the dangling fetus, and there's this section. Um, and they each had their own, for me, interesting elements and challenges. This one kind of felt like the most typically video gamey, right? You're this character, you're walking around a world, you kind of know what to expect a little bit in that regard. So the fun thing about the previous two was it's like this sort of different kind of thing. The first one especially is like very arcadey, where you're flying through this kind of random tunnel, um, and then the second one is just kind of this different sort of game mechanic where you're kind of pushing against this like the physics of this wind, and that was interesting to me. So those were interesting for that reason. And then this one is kind of was fun because it's like let's make a kind of more typical like kind of walking type of video game where you're just in a world and you can walk and look around and jump and stuff.
Yeah, and you know this. So this actually represents the landscape of my subconscious. And within my subconscious, you know, there are areas of trauma which are represented by holes. And so this guy fell into the hole, and the whole idea is like, you know, when I get into like a depressive stage or something, the world is still kind of the same, but the way I perceive it is distorted and it has changed. And that's what this represents. Like when you fall down into this, you know, trauma-ridden depressive hole, you come out, the same landscape is there, but now it just seems very different. So Dave, was it really hard, like was it difficult to like distort the world? Because this is one of my favorite features here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fun. I like stuff like just kind of messing with the camera and lighting and like post-processing effects, and I think that's fun. And so yeah, it was cool. Yeah, yeah,
You
I'm
know,
glad that you appreciate it.
yeah, and you know, in terms of the design elements too, like you just briefly before you saw the sky, and the sky, that blue is actually I had a pet rat, Her Royal Majesty Queen Herpes the First. She grew these huge mammary tumors, which we were able to take out. We sliced the tumor. She survived, and then my friend Nate, he dyed it
There's a
with this.
lot in that sentence. I'm sorry to interrupt.
There is,
There
yeah.
is a lot in that sentence. I had a pet rat. For some people, that in itself is like what?
But
And
Dave,
her name is.
you had a pet rat too, Dave. I mean, that's what connects us too in a way.
Oh
Yeah, I
yeah, no,
heard.
I had
Yeah,
multiple pet rats.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I'm sorry. Yeah, since I just thought it was funny.
no, no, it is a crazy thing. But then, yeah,
Yeah, no, and that's a photogrammetry of the tumor. Is that right?
yeah, it's dyeing the using this thing called DAPI. You dye the tumor, and then and fluorescently dyes and marks like the DNA or something. So that's what that
Yeah,
is, the sky. And the
yeah.
ground is like pictures of fungus that I took, and then the green parts of it. And this part here that we're getting closer, those are actually the breasts because we're climbing on Mother Earth. Um, and this is the virtual world, and now this person is walking towards this virtual vagina, you could say. And in the real world, there's actually the male part, which is this huge wooden phallus that I made out of a tree, you know. And
So
basically, yeah.
this Mother Earth, this is the kind of the bedding of your subconscious. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, so the
This is like the
subconscious.
ground plane of your subconscious world.
Yeah, that's what this is. Um,
So this whole thing is kind of like the journey of this character, this Symbiosis Null, and would is this like a persona within you, or how
yeah,
would you?
thanks for, I didn't describe it too well, but everything in my subconscious is just a manifestation of myself. So this is just me wrapped
Sure.
up in this idea, this new idea of Symbiosis Null. And now Symbiosis Null is going to go into this virtual vagina where it's going to then be shot up, and it's going to go from my subconscious into the real conscious world, and that's what that mannequin creature over there is. Once it comes out of my
It's a photo
subconscious,
of an actual mannequin.
it's a photo of an actual mannequin. Yeah, yeah, in the real world.
Okay.
So, so that's like that's
It's
the
pretty
story.
intense.
Yeah, but all thanks to the cinematography and video gaming of you, master craftsman.
It was a pleasure to work on. This was quite a journey.
And you
And I
taught me
hope
how to use.
others experience. Yeah,
No, no, yeah, and you taught me how to use Blender and all that stuff. I mean, it was
yeah.
pretty epic.